From LALATE headquarters in Santa Monica, this is Afternoons LALATE.
It's a big afternoon of Afternoons LA, direct from Santa Monica with your voice stimulus check update of 2021. The President of the United States is set to deliver that $3.5 trillion recon at 1.75 to a vote this week. The latest details as the President is set to return from Glasgow and also return from that Rome trip. The president, in returning from Europe, is set to set a vote on no less than two bodies of legislations at the same time. I have the latest details of excitement starting right now on this big afternoon's recording. The recon will be going for a vote in the next few days, we now learn from Speaker Pelosi. The breaking details is that a deal is happening and the House and the Senate will vote on the recon, but the House is set to debut it in bill format with a vote. Then, LA told you so that the recon is getting modified. I have the latest details on where that modification is, but the price tag will still be at 1.75. Then, the exciting details is more programs are going in across the board, and those programs include money for medication. Then the details thereafter are that student loan debt forgiveness could be forgiven across the board. I have the latest details of that, plus the COLA raise. That student loan debt could be $10,000. Those breaking details and more as I join you direct from Santa Monica with the breaking news as a vote is looming by the end of this week for the recon. Oh boy, here we go. As the recon's wrapping up, provisions are being added and voterama on the horizon, right in front of us. It's a big day with exciting details as a recon's coming together, a vote is coming together, and the return from Scotland, the time difference just really hard, just taking it really hard. But he'll be okay. He'll have the breath mint. He'll have the binder. He'll be ready to lead us into the finish line. This is a big Afternoons of Afternoons LALATE. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're having a beautiful day and hope the weather is good where you are. It has been cool here along the coast, but the big deal is that we not only have a deal happening on the recon, but that the vote will start this week. So Speaker Pelosi, I have the latest details in this recording, the price tag 1.75, and I'm going to go over why this works. Then the vision in, provisions out, more provisions are being added in there, and those provisions pay you a lot of money. Then we go over the COLA raise and the student loan debt forgiveness. More debt could be forgiven, and then COLA is coming in at 5.9%. But Jay Powell testified on Capitol Hill today, tomorrow. That is as we look at inflation and its growing number across the board. This is fifth stimulus, and this is why it's great news for you, because you could have three more lifts coming right together. It's a big afternoon, and I'm really excited for you with a vote on the recon coming, a deal on the recon coming, and a finishing of the recon coming. Boy, here we go. And this is LALATE. So subscribe. 400,000 subscribers at YouTube. RECON, I want you part of this incredible, wonderful family. Hit that subscribe button right now. Like this video, 2,000-3,000 likes, and consider becoming a member. It was several weeks ago that a House subcommittee passed what at that point was a $3.5 trillion recon, with clusters of checks split across three segments, cluster 1, 2, and 3, and then three add-ons ensued thereafter. That recon pays you about $15,000, but even now at 1.75, it still pays about that same amount of money to the viewers of this channel. Who's this? You. If you are single, if you're not single, if you're with children, without children, if you're elderly, if you're not elderly, if you're on disabilities, if you're not on disabilities, about $15,000 across three clusters of checks. And in this afternoon's recording, I go over the breaking news about what programs are in, which programs came back in after being out, and how big those numbers are. Remember, when I say in and out, it's at the time of this recording. This is breaking news. You're hearing this for the first time, starting right now. Cluster number 1 and everything in cluster number 1 passing that subcommittee of the House has survived negotiations this week. Hazard pay in there, earned income tax credit 1 more year, elder care $4,000 a year, $4,000 for the young children's care as well. They got money in there for the Pell Grant made tax-free and increasing the amount of money of $550 per college student. And then they got the money in there for those home repairs in a low-income community. Wonderful, wonderful news. The CTC, the child tax credit, increased for one more year. And then they got money for bikes, cars, and trucks, all electric, all U.S. auto manufactured. 15% for the purchase of a new electric bike, extended for 10 more years. This is an Obama legislation. They're just very, very old rule. They're just extending it. And then the car, personal use, $7,500, a little bit more if it's for business use. The first add-on is that add-on from Maxine Waters, $25,000 for the purchase price of a new home. That price point not surviving, but the other provisions about housing all surviving for the wonderful Maxine Waters. Those provisions, you just saw one of them, the home repair, and I got another home repair for you right now. So here we go. They got in this second cluster a series of items in that subcommittee. Let's see what happened, if any of them or all of them survived. Family leave and medical leave out, but reportedly coming back in today. Childcare in, household tax credit in, pre-kindergarten in, community college out, and then the money to weatherize your home. You definitely need to weatherize your home, especially if there's someone that knocks on your door saying, I'm here to sell you a calendar. You're here to sell me a calendar? What's your name? Colleen. Oh, but it's not September. It's November. Weatherize your home to keep calendar callings out whenever possible. Let's go to the second add-on. And it's really incredible great news. I'm very excited for you. This is for my seniors. This is for my people on disabilities. $250 billion of home health care services proposed. They're not doing this number. They're doing a little bit less, but boy, it's coming to you. They're going to give big money to city, counties, and states from the federal government so that they can provide you free home health care if you're a senior or if you're on disabilities. Wow. Let's go to the third cluster and see which ones in this provision added and which one subtracted. And I have breaking news on these as well. Free school meals for all survived. Then cheaper prescription medication out, back in today. Immigration reform in, but likely out by the end of today. But I have a lot about that later in this video. Stay with me. Farming, I believe, out. Then free internet, I don't know. I think it's out. Clean energy, out. Workers' protection, I believe, out. And then and then the money for seniors like dental, vision, hearing. Let me go on air for those provisions starting right now. That was a subcluster in that third cluster, and it's a lot for seniors. Let's go over the details. The broaden the eligibility of Medicare across 50 states and having all the states pay their equal share, got it in there. Then the lowering the eligibility age of Medicare to 50 or 55, not in there. Then the expansion of Medicare for dental, vision, hearing. At the moment, only hearing, but dental and vision is believed to be going in there. Let's go to that third add-on, and that third add-on is monthly stimulus checks. Have you been advocating? As Jennifer said in the live chat yesterday several times, she said, how many phone calls did you make today? It's important to understand that legislators are making a lot of changes to this recon by the hour and on the hour. And if you've been with this channel over the last few months, you know how this works. You're going to eventually see a House bill. You may see the House bill today. You may see it tomorrow. There's not going to be an MSC in there, but they can add it before there's a House vote. On the House side, like Omar, AOC, Pelosi, all told thousands of viewers of the channel, they would add it before there's a House vote, but after there's a House bill. If they don't take care of it, then you have the 2-day Senate vote-a-rama. The Senate vote-a-rama is the final 2 days of the entire process where the senators introduce amendments for things they want to add in there. Very important because they've been doing this all along throughout history. Senators do things totally different, and you're going to see Ron Wyden in this video with a new comment that says, it ain't done till the senators make their changes. I love it. I love it. Why is that important? Because Chuck Schumer's in charge of the vote-a-rama. He determines when things are called during the vote-a-rama. He introduces the provisions to be voted on the vote-a-rama, and Chuck Schumer, his staff, says he's inserting a monthly stimulus check. Well, you need to keep on advocating with Chuck Schumer because Donnie did 2 days ago, got a yes. He advocated with Liz Warren. He got a yes. And Debbie Applegate and another viewer advocated with Chuck Schumer in the last 2 weeks. They got a yes. Advocacy needs to continue every step of the way. Let's read that incredible, nice message from the chief of staff to the number one guy in the recon. They now have in total between congressional and senatorial offices received more context advocacy from the LA Purple Power. Everyone's amazed by the outpouring of touching stories. Now they have a better understanding of how the average American's trying to get through this pandemic. They have heartbreaking stories, and they have the voice of the people in you, LA, as you have become too loud to be ignored. Very, very kind. I mean, my shirt is sort of loud. I mean, maybe they're referring to my shirt. Yeah, it's a very, very muddled red, loud shirt. But very, very kind. Please continue your encouragement of the continued advocacy as the professional voice of the people you have become until this is law. There was a person in early morning's countdown today that said something like, why advocate if they haven't put it in there? For many reasons. One, it's the senators more than anyone else who have always said they're going to put it in there. And the senators aren't writing the legislation. It's the House members who are writing the legislations. The senators making negotiations, and the House members don't put it in there. The senators put it in there. That's the first reason. The second reason is everyone's negotiating. Everyone's negotiating every hour. And we had an incredible quote from Bernie Sanders, which embodies the situation for advocacy. He said on Saturday and Sunday, Halloween weekend, that he spent all day Saturday working the phones. And then as soon as I got out of the studio for, I think it was a CNN interview, I'm going back home and picking up the phone and make sure that we have our provisions in there, referring to the medical provisions. That is the true embodiment of advocacy. You would assume, using that person's logic, the viewer, you would assume that the person in charge of the recon, Bernie Sanders, the person who got you the recon, Bernie Sanders, the person who got the price tag of the recon, Bernie Sanders, you would assume his provisions are in there. They're not. The guy who's actually in charge of the recon, his provisions aren't in there. So that is why everyone's advocating. And with 15 paid lobbyists for the pharmaceutical companies, guess how many lobbyists we have for the Purple Power? You. A lot more. In the second half of this video, we have a lot of great stuff coming up as Nancy Pelosi represents that the vote on the recon and the roads and bridges could be happening by the end of the week. That the debut of the legislation on the House side could be happening. The legislation, where is it right now? I have the latest details where it is right now. 1.75 is the price of the recon. That is a done deal. It could still go a little bit higher, though. And then I have the latest rundown on the programs in and out. Student loan debt forgiveness, more debt could be forgiven. And then COLA raise. I got those incredible great news. And then I have my commentary of the situation. We got a huge afternoon's recording. We're just getting started. I'll be back with you in 60 seconds. But first, here's a little bit about the community page as Afternoons Highlight continues. If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.la.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. Their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LALATE Daily for the excitement of the new LALATE live daily. The excitement starts on mornings LALATE at 9 a.m. Home LALATE returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then afternoons LALATE at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on LALATE. And the excitement continues right now as a vote on the recon could be happening this week, says Representative Nancy Pelosi. I have the latest details. The price is right, 1.75. What does that mean for you? LA told you so. Block the road, but is block the road still critical? I'll have the latest details on where the vote is happening. Programs in, programs out. This was the news you wanted to hear. More programs are going into this incredible recon. Incredible details across the board. Student loan debt forgiveness. This is huge. More debt could be forgiven. Whose debts are being forgiven? I have the latest in this recording. And then fifth stimulus. Boy, here we go. Fifth stimulus heats up with another round of money. That could raise your benefits up if you're on SSI, SSDI, and Social Security Railroad benefits. Those details and more as the president returns from that overseas trip from Glasgow and also from visiting from Rome. We'll have the latest details on what the president has in store from him with that RECON vote. It's all coming up, and it starts right now on LALATE. So subscribe. For 400,000 subscribers at YouTube record, I want your part of this incredible family. Hit that subscribe button right now. Like this video, 2,000 likes, and consider becoming a member. Coming up next is Evenings LALATE at 5 p.m. A totally different show tonight as it was last night. Oh boy, that was like it was night and day. It didn't even feel like the same channel. The news cycle is changing very, very rapidly across the board. Then we got shows with our big new binge programming block. 5, 6, and 7, 3 hours of binge programming with all your favorite friends and breaking news together. Evenings Countdown, and Street and Stimulus. Let's go into the breaking details across the board that's happening right now with the RECON. The progressives and the moderates and the senators and the House members all are now in store for a vote on your RECON by the end of this week. Nancy Pelosi represents that the RECON could go for a vote by the end of this week. Can she get it done? We will see. Where is the RECON at the moment? The RECON, remember, was written by that subcommittee, $3.5 trillion, several weeks ago. They had to make edits to it. The negotiations are continuing to add provisions in there. But the RECON as a draft of a bill is in something called the House Rules Committee. It's a subcommittee. And Nancy is now asking for that House Rules Committee to get it out and have it ready to go to the floor of the House of Representatives for a vote by the end of this week. Wow. This is as Nancy Pelosi herself says, the RECON and the roads and bridges will go for a vote together. Yesterday, Pramila Jayapal, the head of the Progressive Caucus, said, you know what? We ain't going to block the roads and bridges anymore. I'm going to leave it up to the president. He represents, he can get this done. I'll let him do it. Get both of them for a vote on the House floor. And that is what's being represented, will be happening later this week. Let's go over all the details of what is in the RECON, what is not in the RECON. But first, let's go over just briefly what I told you yesterday sort of came back to bite everyone. Who did it bite? The broadcast media. Yesterday, Joe Manchin had a press conference he called in the Senate, and he basically said the same thing he's been saying for many weeks. One broadcast media, CNN, sort of ran it as though some massive jaw-dropping, oh my God moment. And immediately thereafter, by the next day, everyone said, oh no, it really was much of nothing. This is what he's always said. And I said that as soon as he made the remarks. In fact, one Democratic legislator said he could have put that in an email. It was so uneventful, you couldn't imagine. Yesterday, I spent nearly 10 minutes of a video explaining that these comments are much what he's always said. But one thing that was very fascinating in what he did say that no one really picked up except me was that he agreed to 1.75. And that what he was proposed in a first draft of the legislation looked like a open door to bring this RECON to potentially $10 trillion. Why? He said the provisions look like they were sort of automatic refurbishing provisions, that they would automatically regenerate, that they would renew. They would automatically renew over and over and over again, and suddenly it's not 1.75, it's a lot more money. If there's a thing that Joe Manchin will catch, he'll catch people who can't write a good body of legislation. And he says that's not 1.75, that's a lot more money. So that is why the progressives and the moderate Democrats have said, I need to see the body of the legislation. That is why it's very important for this legislation to come out of that House Rules Subcommittee and have everyone look at it. Nancy sent it over to senators and House members, I believe, on Sunday or Saturday. And it's when Manchin saw the first markup, he said, this is not what we talked about. This is quite different. As Senator Chris Coons, Delaware, Joe Biden's old confidant, says, you know what? Everyone will say, I agree to the framework, but until you see a body of legislation, you cannot say yes. But the exciting details is that that body of legislation could potentially be debuted by the end of this week. What programs are in there, what programs are out? Let's go over all the incredible details, and this is where the situation is getting very good news. A lot of provisions that we thought were gone are, in fact, very much in there. And those provisions start, of course, with the excitement of medication. Cheaper medication costs will be going in there. What's at issue? Let's back up to understand how strange this has been. On Wednesday, we woke up with the understanding that the cheaper medication cost was in the recon for Medicare Part B, which is for people on diabetes and insulin medication. Cheaper medication in those Medicare Part B recipients. Wednesday evening, the president picked up the phone and called Kristen Sinema, the person who has been much the pushback on cheaper prescription medication. He had a big achievement. He got her to agree to broaden the eligibility of the cheaper medication to other parts of Medicare. Yes, she said. By Wednesday night, we thought we had a big win, but Thursday morning we woke up and the president debuted the recon without the mention of the prescription medication in there. Why was that? I can now report that the reason why was not that it was taken out, as we thought initially, because it wasn't mentioned. It was that because it wasn't done yet. It was something that they were still negotiating, so he couldn't announce something that was still very fluid. Well, the good situation is the Medicare Part B is reportedly still in there, and now Medicare Part D is in there as well. The latest draft includes a redesign of the Medicare Part D including new medication negotiation and rebates to you. And that it mirrors a very, very historical landmark H.R. 3 medication bill with very similar parameters across the board. This comes after negotiations began on Thursday, the same day in which the announcement from the president showed that there was no prescription medication in there. How close is this happening? It's going to happen, says Pallone, Murphy, Warren, Klobuchar, Sanders, and Kelly. I think we're very close to a deal. We're going to have a bill that's going to has negotiated prices, going to make differences in the terms of people being able to afford the medication. And this is the one that Bernie said, I'm spending all weekend calling around to get it in there. There you go. The second provision that's likely going back in there is the paid leave. This is a big provision. This, like the prior one, were promises for the president when running for the presidency. Paid leave, paid family leave, paid medical leave. What is it? Paid family leave. You have to stay home because your wife is giving birth to your first child. If you want to stay home currently in the United States, it's on your dollar. Employer does not have to pay for it. Then, let's say you are a single dad and you have to stay home because your son broke his leg. Guess what? You have to stay home. It's on your dollar. Employer does not have to pay for it. This is the only country of the modern era where paid leave and medical leave is not federal law. It doesn't make sense. The opponent to it, Joe Manchin, he says it's very costly. I know it's costly, Joe, but we cannot be competitive in the world arena if our corporations don't have at least the same thing as other companies overseas. And this is why businesses relocate overseas and employees move overseas, because they see better benefits. So there is suggestion that this provision may go in there, and this provision has been very, very fluid in that Pelosi has been willing to really modify this a great deal. I'll have the provisions of it later in this video. Stay with me. There's a lot coming up. Gillibrand and Murray, both Democrats, that's from New York and Washington, represent, they're pushing to get it in there, and we're fighting to get paid leave included. It's downright shameful that it's not included. The third provision believed to be added back in is SALT. It is the cap on state and local tax deductions. Very important if you are in a big state like New York, New Jersey, Florida, or California. It's from Gothenheimer. Yeah, the New Jersey problem creator. He's putting it in there, and there's talks that it will go in there across the board. The third and final provision that is very, very unclear at the moment is, actually fourth provision, is the immigration reform. And the immigration reform, I want to clarify because I did see some comments. The immigration reform is not for new immigrants coming to this country. It's for existing immigrants. So people that have been in this country for 10, 20, 30 years. Let me go over what's at issue with this one. This one is very fluid, which brings us right into the voting process. Immigration reform is very polarizing among the Democrats. There is the following running count. Let's go over some running counts because I like them and I think you do as well. The running counts on the votes. What does a provision do when we look at the running counts on the votes? There is a small group of people who want this immigration reform in. There's a very large group of people who want it out. This is among the Democrats. A large group of people that want it out. There is a small fraction that says that they will vote against the recon if it's not included. But there's a larger fraction that says they will vote against the recon if it's included. The Senate parliamentarian is set to review the provision this week. My prediction is she will rule it does not belong in there. It very much mirrors a provision covered on this channel several weeks ago, which was removed by the parliamentarian. Money for the judiciary. It's just not a recon-ish type provision. I think it's coming out. Similarly, when we talk about the SALT, which we just went over with Gothenheimer, his group called the Goth Gang is reportedly, among moderate Democrats, going to vote against the recon if they don't get the SALT staying in there. Very, very fascinating across the board. Of course, when you look at the Senate side, Bernie Sanders was asked about this very much subject matter going into the weekend. Are you going to vote against the recon if it doesn't have medication, hearing, dental, vision? He says, I can't answer that. Bernie Sanders does it a little bit differently because he is a very high-end legislator. So he's not going to tell the president, I hate your bill, I'm going to vote against it. Unlike a Gothenheimer or someone like in a caucus at issue with the immigration reform. They'll literally say, I'm going to vote against the recon. Bernie, hard to say if he would vote against the recon if the provisions are not in there across the board. Liz Warren says she hopes to see a good bill. So you understand that if the progressive priorities are not in there, it's potentially not a good bill. So where are the programs? Which ones are in or which ones are out? Here we go with the rundown. We got more of these details first right across the board. But one of the things I want to go over is the adding provisions in there. We have legislators who are adding provisions in there. When, how, where? Let me explain this a little bit more than I've done in the last 2 days. They're adding the provisions in there before it becomes a House bill. I told you it's currently a draft of a House bill in a subcommittee. They're currently negotiating senators and House members to add provisions in there. That does not mean that that's the finality. Let me explain something I've never explained before in this channel. For example, Ron Wyden wants to add some stuff. And let's say he reaches out to the House members. They say, I'm sorry, Ron, I'm not putting it in there. That's not to say that when the bill lands in the Senate, that Ron Wyden by vote of Ron is not going to try again. That's what they do. They try once, they're going to try again. So understand, it's much like our process for the MSC. The deal's not done until the Senate acts, is Ron Wyden's comment. He's a senator, of course. There's a significant amount of stuff to do. So this is very much the situation. Chris Coons, in fact, confirms this. There's going to be a dozen proposals that folks are going to make. And he's referring to senators. He's not referring to House members. Jalapal confirms the senators was texting her all weekend to add provisions in there. This is good across the board. And that if it's better for 50 votes, then we should get it done. Jalapal focused more on just getting the vote passed in the House, not really focused on the substance. You may not see much of chatter from Jalapal about the substance of the recon. You're going to hear talking about the voting process more. But AOC from New York says there's open willingness to negotiate and put provisions in there across the board. Debbie Stabenow, Democrat from Michigan, says, yes, it looks like we're making some changes. And Chuck Schumer, of course, is dealing with that Senate parliamentarian today or this week. And Murray, who's from Connecticut, Senator Murray says there will be changes across the board. Bernie says it's the best bill since the 1960s, but it has some major gaps. American people are sick and tired of paying for higher medication. There's no language in there dealing with the prescription medication. Well, that was until now. And I'm glad for hearing, but we need to include dental and vision. Will you support it, Senator Sanders? I'm not going to answer that question. I'm going to do my best to make a good bill better. So you're going to add provisions to that? Yes, we are. This is a comment he made on Thursday, so he's still doing this. And then he talks about everything we've just talked about as well. So there you go. Let's go over some of the provisions right now, and you're going to see a lot of brand new stuff on this recording. You're going to see brand new analysis, brand new details about the provisions, and brand new clarity. Sometimes when we hear someone say something, we don't know what it means until several days thereafter. So let's go over some of the provisions right now. Universal pre-kindergarten. This would be 1 year of pre-kindergarten for 3 to 4 year olds. It's about 6 million children a year. Enhanced child tax credit, 1 more year, the CTC, that would be $3,600 or $3,000 if you make a certain amount of money or less. 1 more year of this. I had been reporting that the income level was going to be the same, $60,000, but they had tried to get it to 110, didn't. Broadcast media saying they got it to 150, 150,000. I don't think that's accurate reporting. Now, it's very interesting, and that starts sort of this narrative you're going to see in this video, which is I don't think there's two possibilities. Either it's incorrect broadcast news reporting, or the people who actually wrote up the draft of the recon and sent it over to Joe Manchin did not keep their promise about what the deal was. I'm reporting to you what the deal was. And so ultimately, maybe the person who actually wrote the markup of the legislation did not keep their promise to what they said with Joe Manchin is changing numbers. So when we look at something like $150,000 for the CTC, that's not what the deal was. So if they did put that in there, that's not what the deal was. And Joe Manchin obviously would be not agreeing to that. But either that or that's incorrect broadcast news reporting. See how this is happening? Now, here's what gets very obvious that there's something wrong. Home health care, permanently changing Medicaid so that there would be the free home health care for seniors and people with disabilities. Okay, now something's really wrong there, because that clearly is not what the provision agreement was. That it was 1 or 2 years of this program, not permanent, not lifetime, and that was absolutely not the rule. That's why you're going to see later in this video the price tag of what it is. It's not even $250 billion. It's about $175. That's not permanent. It's 1 or 2 years. So again, either the broadcast media got it wrong, or they got it right because someone is changing the language in the draft of the bill to not reflect the agreement with Joe Manchin. And that is why things like the words permanently are a big red flag. Remember, Joe Manchin, during his press conference yesterday, said it's a so-called 1.75, meaning that there was a way for people to keep on renewing these provisions, and that suddenly it's not 1.75, it's $20 trillion. Absolutely very fascinating across the board. Then we have hearing services now covered under Medicaid. Good, we know that about that as well. We got money for the home repairs, $150 billion to expand affordable housing. That included construction, rehab, improvement in more than 1 million affordable houses. We have additional $550 one time for students on the Pell Grant and making the Pell Grant tax-free. And then school meals, 8.7 million children would get free school meals during the school year, and then additional $65 per month when they are not in school. This is clearly where you would see someone try to sneak stuff in it. They try to, making it instead of 1 year just a lifetime or permit, not what Joe Manchin agreed to. Very, very fascinating across the board. Which brings us then to the medical issue, the medical provisions. You already heard the issue about the prescription medication, which they got to get covered across the 50 states due to a Warnock and Claiborne great provision. But what about the dental, vision, and hearing? This is where things don't make sense. Bernie says we're the wealthiest country in the globe, and we have citizens who have no money for teeth in their mouth, have no hearing, cannot see. I mean, a recon must have serious negotiations on that provision. This is where the situation is not fluid. You know, you and I have seen me over the last week have real strain to figure out why is a provision being removed, who removed it, and why is this provision not in there, but another provision is. When we look at this one doesn't make sense. Of dental, vision, and hearing, what's the cheapest? The vision. It's not expensive at all. About $150 a person a year. The prescription, $50. The eye exam, $50. The glasses, $100. I mean, that's it. And it helps a lot more people than a hearing aid, because less people have loss of hearing than vision impairment. And vision is a lot, and vision is cheaper than hearing. Hearing aids are a couple $100. So not particularly clear why hearing got in there, not vision. Also not clear is what's going on with dental. Dental was a big issue. Everyone talked about, Pelosi talked about, Biden talked about. Everyone wanted in there. 10 years, then 3 years, then just a voucher, $800 a year. Suddenly not in there? Wait a second, who took it out? We don't have anyone coming forward and say, I don't like dental. We have only statements like it's expensive, but no one said taking it out. It's not $500 billion provision. It's not expensive, and they reduced it so much, not particularly clear across the board. Let's go to some of my other notes that are very fascinating, which shows you that the situation is very, very tenuous in that maybe someone is not writing the legislation to reflect the agreement, or the broadcast media is just not accurately reporting. What is my guesstimate is that when I see the words permanent mentioned so often, I think someone didn't write the legislation, the draft correctly, and Joe Manchin saw it, and that is why he was not pleased. When people say, the Joe Manchin press conference yesterday was much the same thing, It was, with the exception of him saying, there's someone playing games with the numbers. I really want to get down to it, and no one really did except me. Here we go. Here's where I want to get down to the numbers. Child tax credit. It's 1 year, $60,000. Why is broadcast media saying $150,000? $150,000 is not middle class. That's not low income. Community college out. Pell's grant now tax-free and additional $550. The paid leave, we have explanation about that, but not a lot. We know that Joe Manchin's against it, but why? It's not that expensive. Nancy got it down to $100 billion. I mean, $100 billion is not expensive, this recon. It's a very small, 1.75. It's less than 10% of the recon. She offered it down to 4 weeks from 12 weeks, and all the paid leave caucus groups were in favor of her, didn't even blink when she brought from 12 to 4. She did 4 weeks, only low income and only employees, and we're fighting to keep it in there. Then when we look at childcare, they got that in there, clean energy out, health insurance, cheaper and more weeks of it, housing aid, $175 billion. That's huge. That's great. Third stimulus had housing aid at $47 billion. So 175 is a big win. They had wanted $300 billion, so they got a lot. It was out. Remember, it was out about a week ago. They put it back in. And the in-home healthcare, $100 to $200 billion, down from $400 billion. It shows you they wanted it for about 5-6 years at $400 billion. Now it's $100 to $200 billion. So why is broadcast media using the word permanently? Yeah, we'll get bound to the bottom of this. I expect someone to certainly get a sense of that game playing, if it is there, to figure out where it is happening. So more student loan debt could be forgiven. I'm going to go over student loan debt before I go back over more about this recon in my commentary. Student loan debt, there's 3 rounds that have been done, and the president has offered a 4th round. The president is now offering $10,000 of student loan debt to be forgiven across the board. Democrats should take it. What are they doing? This would be for everyone. No income restriction whatsoever. And does not preclude the Democrats from going back and getting more money at a later time. What is this money? It is the latest. The president forgave student loan debts for individuals who became disabled after graduation. Then the president forgave student loan debts for individuals who went to work in the nonprofit sector for 10 years after graduation. And finally, the president forgave student loan debts for people who went to work in the public sector for 10 years after graduation. That's your city, your county, your state, and your federal government. Finally, if there's anything that's going to heat up this week any more than the president coming back from Europe, it is Jay Powell. Your head of the Federal Reserve will be testifying on Capitol Hill twice this week, and he's going to be asked about the Fed's funds rate. He's going to be asked about interest rate, and he's going to be asked about inflation. And that is big because fifth stimulus is right around the corner. COLA, your COLA benefits letter has been going out. You may have gotten it by now. It says your benefits are going up 5.9% approximately next year, which is huge. It's a lifetime. It's not just next year, it's lifetime. But get ready for fifth stimulus because it's right behind it. And we'd have 2 more other lifts right after this, all within 1 year, meaning you're lifted up, then lifted up again, and then lifted up again. And once you're lifted up, you never step down. Remember, that's how benefits work. What is fifth stimulus? First, it's going to raise your benefits up if you're on SSI, SSDI, Social Security, and railroad benefits. Then it's going to apply a new benchmark. The new benchmark is inflation. And while Jay Powell may testify that it's transitory, it's temporary, it's coming back down, it ain't coming down that much. It's probably going to be about 1 to 3%, which is about pre-pandemic levels next December 2022, which is huge, which would be an additional 3% if that's the case, on top of these other 2 lifts. They're going to remove the asset cap, remove the income cap, and remove the marriage penalty. And love is going to win, and you'll be able to do a pair dance at your own wedding and no longer fear a loss of benefits. That's fifth stimulus. Finally, if you haven't become a member, what are you doing? The membership link is under the video. The members are sent the newsletter Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, via the YouTube alert system and the LALATE alert system. It's very important to become a member because third stimulus is still paying out. Let's go over a little bit of third stimulus. I've missed it, and we haven't featured on this channel for a while because fourth stimulus was heating up because Joe Manchin is settling down now. I'm so tired to go over some third stimulus news. Third stimulus involves the rent to start. How much money are people getting for the rent? Let's look at these incredible numbers. Viewers of this channel have gotten $20,000 to $30,000 for rent, but now viewers are getting upwards of $80,000 for rent, like Mark. He was at 25, he got more. The numbers are absolutely going through the roof. And most viewers have heard my messaging, which is you can get multiple rounds of rent as well. Places you're going to reach out to are your city hall, your city housing authority, your county hall, your county housing authority, your state hall, and your state housing authority. And the keywords you're going to say are rent assistance because of COVID, mortgage or utility assistance because of COVID. Your utility assistance numbers have gone through the roof as well. They were about this. Now viewers are getting $15,000. Reach out to all your utility companies. And yes, you can get more rounds of this as well. When I see rounds, I mean, if you got it a few months ago, you can come back and get some more going forward. Snap, your benefits went up 25% starting last month, and this is the lifetime raise. So now viewers like Mark's brother-in-law are getting $26,000 a year because of my recordings. All these people on this graphic here, their benefits have gone up 25% as of yours. So reach out to SNAP, Department of Agriculture. It pays for food and it pays for a lot of money. Finally, if you haven't gotten multiple items, you should. Multiple items are very much the coverage of this channel. Those multiple items have resulted in viewers getting items like, can I get the graphic right? Like this. Nancy, Mark, and Nisi getting those multiple items across the board. When you get multiple items, it's very important to get them and continue to get them. And that is why I always tell viewers, you need to make the phone calls. We have Johnny who, like Mark, got upwards of $100,000. Johnny got $80,000. Mark is now at $90,000. Lorraine is at about $120,000. But they're not getting one item. They're getting 7 items. They're getting rent from 2 or 3 different places. They're getting multiple rounds of rent. They're getting utilities from multiple utility companies. So this is what you need to do. Finally, the nonprofits. There's 5 nonprofits you want to reach out to. And who are they? They are United Way, Salvation Army, Community Action, Catholic Charities, and St. Vincent de Paul. They help with rent, utilities, mortgage assistance, just like third stimulus, but they have different eligibility. So if you do have an eligibility problem with the state or local, reach out to them. They're featured in the newsletter. Finally, when you call for the rent, always read the newsletter first that talks about the $13 billion from Treasury. It is the additional new infusion of that $46 billion from third stimulus that the states have received. You want to get that before you make the phone call. Next, the refund check coming back from your state due to overpayment of unemployment benefits. It's landing. I want you to watch for that. This is the one due to computer error. And finally, the refund check from IRS due to the payment you paid on those 2020 unemployment benefits. It's landing. Margaret Codd got it. Michael got it as well. Finally, if you haven't become a member, need to become a member to get that incredible newsletter. It comes out Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and it's sent via the YouTube alert system and the LALATE alert system. It features all the big money under first, second, and third stimulus, the nonprofits, the Treasury statement, because guess what? This is big sums of money. This is absolutely big sums of money. I've been doing this for a very long time. There's nothing better that I know than get people money. In second stimulus land of 2020 at this time last year, second stimulus was not yet becoming law. So I created Purple, which covered the subject matter. And Purple's videos covered this. And I got viewers $250,000 for their rent utilities to cover them through the winter into the new year. But Purple came back on this channel earlier this year, and boy, we've gotten millions and millions and millions of dollars for viewers. Countless viewers have gotten $80,000 to $150,000 just for a viewer. So this is big sums of money you should get. As soon as third stimulus became law, I said, when looking at it, I can get you $15,000. I've gotten viewers a lot more. I've got to them on average $40,000, and they're getting more by the day. Same thing when we look at fourth stimulus. As soon as it becomes law, I'll be here to make sure you get all the sums of money in this fourth stimulus package. And finally, let me go over my commentary of the situation today as we look at what the president's going to do with that recon going into a new day. There is a lot of chatter out there, and boy, I don't think I've ever seen so much chatter about the recon in a way that is very distracting and not in a particularly good way. You know, there were those weeks where people say, I haven't heard a lot about the recon. This is one of those weeks where you hear so much and almost too much that it becomes a little bit distracting. How so? Yesterday, Joe Manchin's press conference was really something he could have put in an email. I agree with that legislator. He could have put it in an email. It was nothing but a lot of grandstanding to get publicity for himself, and he got it. But the broadcast media, either very unformed or very much trying to grab ratings during a sweeps week or something, were trying to embellish this as some massive epiphany of dramatics. It wasn't. It's the same thing he's always said. Same thing he said last week. And when Pramila Jayapal spoke on press, they said the same thing. Oh my God, did you hear what she said? No, it's the same thing she's always said. They're trying to incite some sort of excitement in the equation. My opinion, why? Is because today is a big election day in America for some governor's races and mayor's races, and they wanted to tee up that politics story by bringing you in on a RECON coverage that was fully embellished with a lot of dramatics and again with no substance. The big issue, of course, is the programs. What programs are out? That was not really the scope of the coverage yesterday in broadcast media. It was about, oh my God, did you hear that? What we need to be laser focused on is every program. How is the program phrased? How much money do we get? You've seen the excruciating detail that I always go over with you to make sure you understand. You can get more rent. If you got 2 rounds of rent, you can go get a third round of rent. It can be $20,000, $30,000 additionally. Yeah, this is a lot of money. You got 2 utilities. Why didn't you get the 3 more utilities? That could be about $5,000 more. Margaret, a longtime viewer of this channel, every week she just wakes up and she finds another few $100s from this program you can get there. That's why I'm excited to bring third stimulus back into the recording, because it's a lot of money. Start sending me your message again on private Instagram or private messaging on social media. If you sent it before and I haven't featured on air, send it to me again. I want to start featuring your messages because we work that way. That's how we do it. Your messages are encouragement for other viewers to get these big sums of money. And we're going to start to see a slight overlap. You're going to see that as fourth stimulus becomes law, some of the provisions are going to look like third stimulus, and they will start to overlap. Don't worry, because you get money here, you get money there. It's all about getting the money on this channel. And with that, join me next on a big Evenings LA at 5 o'clock. Expect it to be a very big show today because, boy, the news cycle's changing by the hour. Then we got our new programming block, 5, 6, and 7. It's Evenings, Countdown, and then Stream Stimulus, the new revamped Stream Stimulus. A lot of programming in a 3-hour programming block. Just sit back and enjoy it. We have a big Overnights Crypto. Boy, if you haven't watched Overnights Crypto in the last 3 days, you're missing it. You are just missing it. I told viewers about a coin that was 70 cents. And within just 3 days, it went to nearly $3 to $4. Yeah, that's a big profit level. That ain't 200%. It's a lot more than that. And it's continuing to run. All the latest details on that today as well. So with that, subscribe. 400,000 subscribers, a YouTube record. I want you part of this incredible family. Hit that subscribe button right now. Like the video, 2,000-3,000 likes, and consider becoming a member so you get that newsletter that comes out Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Stay informed, stay focused. Have a beautiful afternoon. I'll see you next on Evenings LA.